So, good morning, you guys. I just wanted to take a minute this morning to talk about some of the perfumes in my store. And there are three perfumes I wanted to talk about specifically, and it's Nabatu, and then there's a perfume called 6080, and there's a perfume called Bridges. And I want to talk about where these perfumes came from, like the history behind why I created them. So, years ago, I was overseas, I was in the desert, and I was sort of feeling down during that time. And I went into one of those very small shops, sort of an open um, counter where they had a bunch of perfume bottles, and you could tell these were, in house mixed perfumes. The place smelled amazing. And I really just went in to buy some incense, but I thought, well, while I'm here, I'll buy a perfume. And most of the perfumes had a name, but one of the bottles that was over on the left in the back corner, it had this very dark, viscous um, liquid inside the bottle. And I was just curious. I thought, oh, I wonder how this smells. And I sort of took a whiff and I thought, oh my gosh, this is just such an amazing perfume. But it didn't actually have a name on the bottle. But I didn't think much of it. I just bought it and I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this perfume and I'll figure out the name later. And I used the entire bottle while I was there. It was almost like I got addicted to that scent. So, cut to a few months later, and I'm out, and I go back to the same counter, and I'm looking for the perfume, and of course, it's not there. Of course, that's how luck is. But luckily, the same person was working that night, and I sort of was able to communicate to him. We were speaking different languages, but I was like, there was this bottle in the corner, and if I had been thinking, I would have brought the empty bottle with me, but I didn't, and I was just sort of, pointing to the corner, and I was like, oh, is this, dark perfume? And he kind of got it, and he said, oh yeah, okay. And then he leaned down and he opened up a little cabinet and he pulled out another bottle of that perfume, and I realized, oh, this is a perfume. Not only is this a perfume that they mix in house, but this is a perfume that's really not a copy of some popular perfume that you would buy on the market. This is just something that they kind of mixed and that they put out to sell. And I promised myself before I left the desert that I would come back and I would buy like 4 or 5 of these bottles, because at that point I realized, oh, I probably won't be able to find this perfume again. Well, cut to a few months after that, and I completely forgot. I was getting ready to leave, and I was focused on other things in my life, and I never went back and got any more of that perfume. But I still had about half of the bottle that I had bought. It was this very tiny bottle, and I kept it with me. And anyway, long story long, I eventually came back to the States, and the bottle lasted me for many, many years. Um, I've been to other places. I'd been to Asia, and I'd been back to the desert, and I just never really found that perfume again. I could never find that scent, but luckily the bottle lasted me for for a long time. I would mix it with other oils, carrier oils, to really stretch it out. But eventually it ran out after, a number of years. It ran out. I didn't really think, much of it. I thought, oh, it's too bad. Every time I went into sort of an out of the way perfume store where I could see that they were making their own perfumes, I would kind of search for it, and I was always disappointed. I would find other perfumes that I was familiar with, and I'd find other things that smelled like other, in-house perfumes that I'd experienced when I traveled abroad in Asia and the Middle East. But this particular perfume, it just always eluded me, and it would really get on my nerves. And then I started making soaps um, quite a while ago. I think it was 2004. And I started making soaps because I had a customer who she had scleroderma, and so I would make creams for her skin, and I started to realize, oh, people need soaps that don't have a bunch of additives and weird stuff in them, and so that's how I started making soaps, and I found it very relaxing, and it was nice to make a product that people like my sister could use because my sister has a number of skin allergies, and every once in a while I would be making soaps, and I would think, oh, wouldn't it be great if I could add that scent to soaps? And so I would think about the scent again, think about the perfume, and I'd go out and I'd look for it. Anytime I was on the road, I would look for it. I would go to small towns. I remember once I went to a ghost town because I had seen that they sold some perfumes that they mixed there, and I thought to myself, this perfume is hiding in the world somewhere. So time went on, and of course, I forgot about it again. So recently, we had the pandemic, and in 2020, I thought, well, I'm gonna reopen the soap store. I never stopped selling my soaps, but I would always sell them offline. And to be honest, a lot of my business still comes from people who I've sold to directly. It doesn't even come through the website. It's usually, return customers. But I thought, well, I'll open the store back up. I have my business license, and I'll go ahead and open the store back up and start selling my soaps again. And then I thought, I think I'm going to add perfumes to the mix. And I thought about that perfume again. And I started to think, okay, now I'm really going to try to mix this perfume from memory. And for a long time, for the last few years, I've tried to mix the perfume. Every time I'm putting perfumes together, I'll be working on a different scent, a different profile or idea. But, late at night or 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll think to myself, I wonder if I can just put that perfume together from memory. The funny thing about memories is that we don't actually remember things the way that they were or are, right? Our memories sort of fill things in for us. So even though we have things that are familiar, like you can have a scent or a sound that's familiar, it might still be different. And as I kept trying to recreate this perfume, I realized that I'm probably not even remembering it the way that it really was. And it might even have a different reaction from me now than it did over 20 years ago, because at this point, it's been over 20 years since I smelled that perfume. So I stopped focusing so much on recreating that perfume, and I thought about the heart of that perfume and the heart of that scent and how it made me feel. And I started to think about the different elements of that scent. It was very earthy, spicy. There was like a resin in there somewhere. The liquid was very viscous. There, I could tell there was some cocoa involved, um, some fruit, and then of course you had florals. It was a really unique scent because it wasn't. If you were to name it in one word, you wouldn't say floral, and you wouldn't just say earthy, and you wouldn't just say spicy. It was it was a very elusive description, and so, but I focused on how it made me feel, and the heart of it and the mood of that scent. And once I began to focus on that, then slowly the perfume began to take shape. And what's funny is that now when I smell this particular perfume, I feel like it's it's a recreation of that scent that I smelled over 20 years ago, even though we all know that it's not. But once I stopped focusing on, oh, I have to recreate this, and I just focused on the mood and the emotions that I wanted to bring to the surface with this scent, then that's how the scent took shape. It also made me realize that one of the things that might have been making it difficult for me was that a lot of the elements that I use to make my perfume are elements that need to sit for a while before they settle in to the actual aroma. And so I went ahead and mixed what I thought would bring that mood about, and I let it sit for about 10 days. And then when I opened it back up, I thought, "Oh wow, that's it. That's the scent that I'm looking for." That's, my eyes opened wider and I thought, "Oh, that's it." But it was so elusive. It's still difficult for me to describe. But anyway, I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the store and I'll see what people think. And I've only sold about 7 or 8 bottles so far, but I'm really, really happy with the feedback. Let me see, I've sold 8 bottles so far. I'm really, really happy with the feedback that I've gotten from customers. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the origins of that perfume for anyone who has it. I named it. It used to have a different name in the store, but I changed the name to Nabatu.